I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and we're in day 4 of round 3 of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League, where the 2023 World Championship semi-finalist Xiangyu Qin, with the screen name self-evident, or the new screen name with a bunch of letters which I can't pronounce, will be playing against the 2024 World Championship semi-finalist Bogdan Curcan, with a screen name Game Over. So needless to say, high-level match is what we expect. Group B is where the championship is taking place, where the match is taking place. We're going to look at the tournament situation a little bit later. As we can see, both players at the moment are evenly rated in their mid-640s, both with a wealth of experience, both in person and online in tournament play. And Xiangyu with red meeples, Game Over with his traditional green. The starting player advantage will be for the Chinese player, and also the first 4 city points. Now, an interesting decision here for Bogdan, who is playing the green meeples, but I think I already mentioned that. So you could go over here and try and protect the square, which is what he does, because had he not done this, red would have gone over here, placed a meeple like this, and tried to conquer this city with a 2 versus 1 meeple majority. The downside of this move is that this allows red to draw a splitter and maybe have himself a 10-point city and leave Bogdan with just 4 points over here, but not anymore, because the splitter has been drawn by Bogdan, who used it to finish a city at the top and start a new one as well. Also, this farm is quite important. That was actually an insurance against said splitter. So imagine if red were to draw the splitter after all, and red were to get the 10 points, because the farmer is already here. This green farmer would actually be scoring 12 points himself, because 1, 2, 3, 4 completed cities would have been on the board. Now, of course, this will be the case still after Bogdan places a tile over here, but I wonder if he even decides to go here, and he doesn't. And the reason why he does not unify the cities just yet is simply because this tile here has a shield and it's worth 4 points. So he wants to wait for a shieldless triangle, of which there are still 2 remaining, and then use a cheaper tile to connect the 2 meeples. And also, on the off chance that he doesn't draw the Dorito tiles anymore, well, first of all, he does, but let's say if he didn't, then the damage from not being able to draw the Dorito tile is actually not that great, because red's side is 3 points and green side is 1 point. Okay, well, you're losing 3 points. It's no big deal. Or you don't even have to lose 3 points. Look at this. Patience absolutely pays off, and greed pays off. And now we're off to a big field fight as QAZ finishes his city on his own, and Bogdan does not really draw a tile with any sort of placement other than an awkward placement. But there are a few productive moves, and this is one of them. He adds points to QAZ with the intention of breaking his city in the future, taking advantage of 2 factors. First of all, 3 out of the 4 starting tiles have gone out, and with a Dorito or a big tile, he could commit his city toward the starting tile or something like this. The second factor is the fact that now QAZ cannot connect to the field safely over here and cannot continue his road, because if he does so, then this square will become super dangerous, because then it will be able to be blocked in 1 move. So imagine a curve here and then any Dorito here, and then that way there would be no tile that fit into that square. So it's actually kind of awkward for red right now, so he needs to find a city cap here first, and then later he needs to connect over here. But with a cow tile of his own, red finds a strong move to not allow a green farmer into the main field, building barricades, it will be not impossible, but very difficult to build around. City cap, city cap, city cap, road monastery, curve, curve is the pattern that would allow green to circle all the way through. But you yourself can imagine how unlikely that is. So finally a city cap is drawn for red, and Bogdan decides to spend the Dorito tile simply to reduce the chances of red to continue and complete the city, and also threaten a complete block. Any straight line, any curve goes here, this square here is trapped. And this square has another significance, which is why QAZ is working so hard to save it. So this will be now the key tile in the entire game, because this square will unify all the fields. And on the leftmost field, red has already 2 meeples, which doesn't really make sense because it scores 9 points only, and it's not very open. The only reason why he needs 2 meeples is to unify the fields, in which case he would be getting a 2 versus 1 majority against this guy, and growing the field to 12 points. And it's now difficult for me to see how this tile won't be for an entire game. Because if QAZ draws it, that will be quite devastating for Bogdan. So 10-point city, 3-point road, meeple back, unification of farms, and all that good stuff for red. But if green draws it, well then red doesn't get his meeple back, trapped with 4 points, 2 farmers trapped in a closed field for 9 points, very limited chances of developing the field, because also QAZ now shuts down the field for a reason, because that makes it easier for him to finish his road. Which, by the way, Bogdan can even go on and block further. Maybe over here, starting a new city, whilst also threatening to get a city tile and play against the square with a Sophie's Choice block. If green can make it so that both of these squares require specifically the starting tile, then of course red will be able to fill only one of those squares. In the meantime, Bogdan manages to build a field of his own. So this meeple doesn't need to connect to the main field over here. At the top it's worth already 9 points, which is almost the same as 12. But there's another move that Bogdan can consider. So a critical decision what to do with this square, because eventually a curve will be drawn and this field will be expanded and so on. So Bogdan can actually cut his losses and now go over here and block the square completely, make sure that this field is closed at 12 points. Even if QAZ manages to unify the field, a 12-point field is something that we can live with, especially since we have another field over here. But he does not do that. He starts a new city, which was the move that I initially suggested. Maybe did not want to waste a shielded tile on this, but none of that is going to matter, as the starting tile is immediately drawn by Bogdan, and this will probably mean that he is so likely to go on and win the game. So he continues his city. Now this square is blocked. These 2 farmers are trapped at 9 points, and now so you see what the difference is. QAZ has 2 farmers for 1 field of 9 points, and green has 2 farmers for 2 fields worth 9 points each. Moreover, this guy can develop his field further by placing a tile over here. Maybe that's why Bogdan did not want to block this square in advance. He just wanted to see who draws the starting tile first. A new road is started by QAZ on the left, and it's not like he doesn't have chances, he just needs to play in a particular way. So since we are now with a meeple minority in the long term from red's perspective, what we need to do is try and find scoring opportunities that also give us meeples back. Let me just increase the screen here. So this 6-point road was a great find, but a large city from Bogdan will not help red by any means. So 14 points with a bunch of shields here. But even if I were red, I still would not panic. Red can actually just now go over here and creates an evil hamster spot. Because I think if Red manages to draw the road monastery that fits into this square, regardless whether he adds this curve right now or later, he might actually save it for later and just do a 4-point road first. Ooh, that's interesting. So he creates a second and a third monastery spot, blowing this game really, really wide open. Bogdan now with an extremely strong move. So before I talk about Bogdan's move, I just wanted to address this. So now there's this 8-point monastery spot, this 8-point monastery spot, and this 6-point monastery spot. So I'm not sure if that's what you want as Red. So I guess there's a 25% chance for either side now to just run away with this game. Because if somebody manages to draw both of these monasteries, these are 18 automatic points and probably a meeple back, and maybe even a third monastery over here. But the most likely outcome, and this is what's going to happen 50% of the time, is one player draws one monastery and the other player draws the other monastery, and that's a wash. So in that sense, the board is a little bit less volatile. And now, in the meantime, QAZ finishes the city at the top, and Bogdan completes a 5-point road, which he had previously set up. And the reason why this was such a strong move is the fact that it not only covers up the field, and by the way, QAZ is the first one to draw this monastery over here. Bogdan will probably be looking to continue his own monastery and setting up another spot for himself. Exactly, this is what happens. There are still 3 field monasteries available, and he draws one of them. So finish an old monastery, start a new one. That's a very well prepared pattern for Bogdan. But back to this field move. So the point of this move, it sets up the 6-point road, which he took advantage of. And it also closed down the field, so now it's physically impossible to invade. So this one guy scores 12 points. And the third thing that it did, it actually helped Green expand from 9 to 12 points by adding this topmost city into the field. So a very powerful sequence. And now QAZ's decision here looks pretty handy. He's quite severely behind now, just because for the same number of meeples, Bogdan has 21 field points, whereas Red has only 9. Red has a block meeple over here, whereas Bogdan will recover his meeple on the left in all likelihood. So I think what Red just got to do is hope for this monastery and pretty much it. Then we're doing quite okay. We just know that Green managed to block the square over here. It's not a complete block. There's still one vanilla city cap tile remaining, and Red could draw it, but still, the damage will not be as severe, because imagine if you get a monastery over here, you finish your old monastery and start a new one for 7 points. Whereas if you get a city cap, then you just finish the monastery without any new threats. So that's why blocking your opponent's monastery spots even partially towards the city can be productive. QAZ tries block Bogdan. Bogdan with another monastery, probably looking to not go here, but rather go here, start a new monastery over there. There's only 14 tiles remaining in the deck, so it's a rather safe investment of a meeple. There's still a bunch of road tiles remaining that would allow not only the completion of the monastery, but also meepling a juicy 6 or 7 point road upon completion. For example, I can see still 3 straight lines available in the deck. Don't go here. Don't go here. That's way, way, way too volatile. In fact, yeah, so Green needs to go here, and then maybe use a straight line to cover up. Because this move from QAZ is actually kind of sneaky, so it looks like a simple block against the monastery, but in reality it also sets up a variety of field connection opportunities. Maybe Red can drop a farmer here like this, and then connect like that, and so on and so on. QAZ now with a city tile. Maybe looking to block that spot, but I don't think so, given that he's behind, and actually he wants to keep that open, which is why he uses it to equalize his 1-point city against Bogdan's 2-point city. Bogdan now covers up both his monastery and the field. Quick point for QAZ. Only 14 behind on the scoreboard. Now maybe this is doable. For example, if he gets the coin flip here, these would be 9 points. Then this would create another coin flip over here for a 5-point road that goes through this. There's a crossroad still remaining. Moreover, if QAZ draws that crossroad, he actually will probably go over here and meeple the road in advance, setting up the road monastery. And then he could draw the vanilla city cap, after which he will be able to meeple a 6-point field because it will be touching these two cities. So there's still quite a lot of threats. QAZ is probably thinking about meepling this 5-point road. Instead, he just simply drops it. And Bogdan now with a crossroads, probably looking to go over here and sets up his monastery completion. There's still one straight line remaining. That would allow him to complete the monastery and get 4 points for the road as well. QAZ, with really not the best tile, decides to simply obstruct Green City a little bit. If this move has been made without a meeple, I assume that the Chinese player must have calculated that there isn't a tile that fits into this square. He's also playing pretty fast, so it doesn't seem that he truly believes his chances to win in this game. Game Over now decides to simply take 2 points for a city. Yeah, lots of scoring tiles recently for Game Over. QAZ with a monastery, but there is no monastery spot on the board. Oh, this has to be annoying. The best that he can do is 4 points. And probably he still has to go for it. The reason is that he still has 2 meeples and there are only 3 more moves remaining for him to make. And 2 out of the 3 tiles that he needs actually give him a meeple back, because his sequence is, okay, you go over here with a monastery and you do meeple it. Then you get yourself a city cap, so then you drop a farmer, get this meeple back. But Game Over gets himself the city cap, so this sequence will not be possible. Anyway, QAZ can still draw that monastery. And Bogdan really with not a good spot to use the city cap, probably looking to continue his city at the bottom. Yeah, Red is not coming back from this one. Hi, Wise Maze, counting that Red's roughly 30 points behind. You're saying it actually didn't seem to be that much. I guess the field difference is really, really big. So the monastery does come in for QAZ, but really, in order to win, he would probably need to start drawing perfect tiles one by one, like a couple of moves ago. That was probably the only way. So both the city cap and the monastery were needed. So it was actually, in hindsight, quite wise for Red to set up both of these evil hamster squares and hope for both monasteries. On the other hand, at that time, the situation of Red was not that severe because Bogdan did find his monastery spots himself. And that's also interesting that when it comes to tile draws, it's sort of relatively even because both tiles drew 3 monasteries and probably QAZ drew even the better ones. Obviously, the crucial draw for this square over here kind of destroyed Red's game, and you could certainly say that unlucky, but also definitely credit goes for Green, setting up an opportunity of a 50% chance to completely devastate one's opponent's game. And it just so happened that in this case, the 50%er did happen. Straight line for QAZ. Well, it doesn't matter exactly where he places it, does not choose to go for the highest scoring move, which would be 4 points over here, 5 points for the road, -1 for giving one monarchy point for opponents. Let's see what the final score difference is. Should be, I guess, around 20 points. This is so interesting how both players have the same number of farmers for fields on the same size, but just because of the geometry of the field, green scores 12 more compared to red. Isn't that interesting? Because this city, and this city, they're in 2 farms are being scored for twice by green. So this move over here, which was a good move from red's perspective because it sort of cuts off this farmer, actually ended up working in Bogdan's favor in the long run due to the block over here. So now it seems to me that the players are taking a break. So we have some explanation. So sadly, QAZ is having a fever there, still trying to persevere and plow through the match instead of canceling or rescheduling. I certainly admire the effort. Hopefully they can get themselves some extra energy in the next 10 minutes. You know, last week, the match between the Japanese master Koki Yamaguchi and 2023 world champion Matt Tucker was rescheduled a couple of days for precisely health reasons. It could be a bit difficult to reschedule matches in this week. Well, first of all, due to time zone differences between Romania and China, but also due to the fact that everybody's weekend is busy because the Mind Sports Olympiad is happening, so not many Carcassonne Champions League matches are going to take place. I'm actually not sure like what I would do if I had a fever or something. I guess that depends on well, I guess that depends on the severity of the fever, because like typically if you are sick then you're also kind of sad, and well, if I'm sad then like playing Carcassonne makes me a bit happier. So even if it's a serious tournament game, obviously like my thinking capacities might be impaired, but it's still fun. But then at a certain point you just need bed rest and you need to save your brain cells and stuff like this. Anyway, so Xiangyu made the decision to play, and we will be getting back in 10 minutes. So you know what we should do now? I know, it's time to talk about the tournament situation because it's pretty interesting. But before that, I just need to attend to a small matter which takes about 5 seconds. High self-evidence. Hopefully you feel better soon. Okay, so then that's great that everybody's in the chat. Self-evidence in the chat. The main organizer Sergey's in the chat, so y'all can discuss what is allowed or not. In the meantime, to answer Sergey's question about MSO, yes. I will try MSO qualifications. It's an important tournament, so I'm going to play. And basically, I will stream everything that I won't be playing. So I will be streaming something in all likelihood. The only scenario in which I'm not streaming is if I successfully qualify from the second qualifier. Because if I manage to qualify for the playoffs from the first qualifier, then I will be free to stream the second qualifier. Or if I don't qualify for the playoffs at all, which is of course not what I plan to do, but you know, what happens will happen. We'll see about that. If then, of course, I will be streaming the playoffs. Okay, in the meantime, yeah, about this position. No. Not about the position. First of a tournament situation, then there's just one. You know what? I changed my mind again. Let's just look at this position first, because I just wanted to answer the question posed by Temarak earlier about the idea of Bogdan blocking his field before this connection over here. So basically, what do you say? Yeah, so Temarak was saying that if Bogdan were to block his own field before these fields are unified, then this city would not be here, and then it would score only 9 points. And this would, of course, be playing against himself. But if this field stays separate, that's already a big win for Green. So let's say if Green does win the coin flip, this means that this city stays trapped, these farmers are trapped, and then the fact that this farmer would be scoring only 9 points instead of 12 is really not such a big deal, just because of how good Green's position is going to be. So the point of blocking this a little bit earlier was just simply to minimize the damage in case your opponent does get the critical tile. But then on the other hand, you probably might want to keep the farms separate. You might want to keep the farm open so that you can invade the farm later. But 12 points is probably not worth the hassle. And you can just simply, for the same amount of resources, start a new farm at the top. Or maybe just use this farmer here as a counter field. Okay, so looks like QAZ is ready to play the second round. Xiangyu confirming that they'd like to continue. Let's see if they manage to have enough energy for game 2. Game 2 has started, so we're going to look at the tournament situation a little bit later. Or has it started? Yes, it has. No, it hasn't. It has just been created. There we go. So now Bogdan has the starting player advantage and already the first points. QAZ decides not to start a new city, which is really unlike them. Maybe the fever is really letting everybody know about itself. The standard move here would be just to go at the bottom and start a new city. Bogdan, of course, loves to pick up this empty spot, but it turns out it was a Trojan horse because, well, it isn't actually a horse, or rather a Trojan cow. Then that would be a more accurate description, because now Green is starting to block the square. Unsuccessfully, because Bogdan immediately covers up, but this square can still be blocked, and there are now only 2, not 3 tiles that fit here, so a 25% chance that Green will simply draw both of these tiles. Bogdan with a straight line and not a productive move in sight. I guess the best that I can see is going over here, restricting this city cap against QAZ a little bit, and it's actually a bit more annoying than it might seem because it makes harder. So if you go over here, it makes harder for green to draw a monastery over here, because as soon as green draws a monastery and starts a new city, then suddenly this square is vulnerable. If you add a straight line, then you start blocking and restricting your opponents towards dagger tiles, so all that good stuff. So the only productive move with a straight line was found by red. Also decides to drop a pretty early farmer. That's something that both Carcassonne brothers like to do, maybe Bogdan to a lesser extent usually than his world champion brother Marian. The first starting tile is drawn by QAZ. He now finishes a city, gets on the scoreboard, indirectly continues his road, which he already meepled just in case red manages to draw the last starting tile, so insurance meeple over here, and in case the square is never filled, well, this road can just continue way over there and maybe even eventually outscore this blocked city guy. QAZ continuing his city, setting up a city cap. Bogdan gets a city cap of his own and attacks said city at the expense of continuing green's monastery by accident. A great tile for Xiangyu here. Probably wants to start a new city like this, whilst also pre-finishing his road on the left side, not allowing Bogdan in any invasions if he so chooses later. And also this restricts the field a little bit, potentially starts a counter field on the right because somebody's going to get a road monastery. There's this great spot for 6 points for road monastery, which will eventually be 7 points upon completion of green city. And then after this city and this city will be part of one field. Bogdan with a new road for 2 points. And this also shows you how important it is to meeple roads in the opening. With this tile over here, QAZ chose to continue his city, which is probably his best choice. But he would have loved to just score 2 points for a road somewhere, but he can't because the only free road end was just occupied by this shameless red meeple. And now, if Bogdan is just as aggressive, he's going to go over here and start a 4-point road. Imprecision from Bogdan. Well, it ends up not mattering, but sometimes it could. So he now starts a road in a more dangerous place because it could get blocked or restricted a little bit. And he did it without creating an attacking platform against this city over here. Well, I mean, eventually, because he drew back-to-back curves, the order of the curves didn't matter, but there were some scenarios how this could have gone south for red. So red gets his accomplishment, gets his 4 points, the creation of an attacking platform, and the game continues. Quadruple city tile for QAZ, really not what he was hoping for, but he uses it to unify the cities. Now he creates a threat of continuing and finishing a 10-point city, which he does. Bogdan with the road monastery. Also, by the way, told you that it would be here. The counter field is also here. This red farmer is looking rather uninspiring, to say the least, so he will need to do a lot of work in order to justify the investment. Still plenty of green squares to bail out, but this allows QAZ to ignore the bottom field and start safely a counter field at the top, which is what it did. In the meantime, Bogdan is also going for your good old finish a monastery with another monastery pattern. Now probably looking to go over here, protecting his monastery square a little bit. There's still plenty of road ends that he can use to get himself a meeple back over here, so that's not important at all. He's probably thinking between going like this or going like this. And I think... oh, the latter is actually a bit worse. Yeah, it's counterintuitive, but I think this is a little bit better. simply because there are fewer tiles for restricting this monastery. Because so many curves have already gone out. In fact, there are only 2 curves remaining, whereas there's a wealth of straight lines available. And Bogdan just finishes his road, which I think is too... this move is just a little bit too slow, if you ask me. It has some advantages. It restricts this meeple by a lot. Well, I mean, there's still a couple of more green squares. QAZ makes a move which I don't like. I really wonder what that is about. I guess the plan of this move is just to make sure that this farmer penetrates the main field, so that red does not finish his monastery and drop a farmer immediately. But I don't think red will be finishing his monastery at all. He has enough meeples. Probably just red's gonna go over here and fight for the city at the bottom. That just appears to be a little bit stronger. And then as for the monastery, I'll be looking to wait for one of the 3 monastery tiles that can allow me to finish. But instead he does finish the monastery, which seems to be a bit sheepish, but it also makes sense because this was actually the last vanilla city cap tile. So if you don't finish the monastery right now, then the issue is that your opponent can place a city tile over here and restrict the square towards a vanilla city cap tile, which is no longer existent in the deck. But I still like the idea of attacking the city at the bottom, because let's say if your opponent successfully blocks, in the meantime you might actually get away with a huge city yourself, and if that were to happen, then you're doing really, really well on the scoreboard, and that blocked meeple doesn't matter that much. Also, if the meeple were to be blocked, this would also restrict a lot of green squares in green's field. So it wouldn't be a very productive farmer. Okay, so now Xiangyu seems to play really, really riskily here. He's creating a monastery spot, and there are only 3 tiles that fit into that square. Oh, but that actually makes some sense. Okay, let me think about this. The reason why this move is so dangerous is because all the vanilla city caps have gone out. So with any big tile, reds can get a triangle or something like a big city tile and place it over here and block the square completely. And so maybe I would have preferred a similar move simply on the other side to still make the setup but not allow the block, because actually in this instance what you want to be doing as red, as green, is first of all knowing what your next style is going to be. So this setup turns to work out like a charm. Bogdan not getting a blocking tile and QAZ getting a monastery immediately. So apparently he decided that he's far enough behind to make this heavy a risk. I would have probably not done it just yet. I probably would have wanted to try and finish that square with a Dorito tile, and then I would use that Dorito tile to fight for the city and create a big ruin, perhaps. Oh, look at Game Over trying a variant of the Ukrainian technique here. So he's now hoping to play with his city cap against 2 of these monastery meeples. I'm not sure if it works in this instance, because QAZ still has chances to recover meeples in other places. And QAZ still has a lot of triangles. Yeah, so the thing is, there are no vanilla city caps left. The only thing that fits here is either 2 splitters or 4 Dorito tiles. And because there are 4 Dorito tiles and only 2 splitters, it is more likely that green will draw a Dorito tile before a splitter. In which case, he'll be happy to place a Dorito tile over here. He'll be getting 2 meeples back, prolonging Bogdan's city, but not necessarily completing it. Although this move does make sense because it is a nasty delay against his opponent's monasteries. And of course, it does not allow for a 3rd monastery, a 4th monastery to be placed. We can see how at the highest level players try to be super efficient with their monasteries. They're always meepling them, or very often meepling them, and are very careful about how they build them. They try to build them in clusters. And so far we have the 5th monastery drawn and the 5th monastery meepled. QAZ now with a Dorito tile, which probably going to be used over here to restrict that square. In fact, there's only one curve remaining, so it is quite difficult to fill in that square. Only a curve or a road monastery goes here. Bogdan with an extender. Hi, Ian. Bogdan decides to leave this empty city cap, does not want to spend his last meeple. He just simply continues the city at the top. Still some chances for it to be completed, and self-evident decides to sacrifice a shielded triangle just to get his meeples back, and Bogdan immediately with a splitter, which has a variety of uses. Ooh, that's interesting. So, do you finish your city over here and just take your 8 points compensation? And this is what he decides to do, but I wonder if he really was tempted to use the splitter to invade this here city. Oh, that would have been something. And with a bunch of Doritos remaining, it might have been actually worth doing. But Bogdan decides that he's overall ahead, which is now not quite true, actually. So they're equal on the scoreboard. They're equal on the fields. They each have a 6-point field. Granted, the bottom farmer is better because of the open city caps and more green squares for development. On the other hand, QAZ does have an open city cap over here. Maybe not for long. Bogdan has the extra monastery, but QAZ has the meeple. And of course, incomplete features at the top. They're roughly equal. It really depends on the timing of the tile draws. So let's say if green gets a crossroads successfully, then Bogdan's city over here at the top will be instantly restricted to just one dagger tile. And green will also be able to expand his field that way. On the other hand, if Bogdan draws something like an umbrella tile and places it over here, this would restrict green to just one crossroads. And this is exactly what happens right now. This could very well be the game-winning tile for Bogdan, because it just does everything. It restricts the road meeple to only a 50% chance of recovery. It covers up the field a lot, and it threatens the completion of what's going to be a 12-point city at the very least. So now, difficult decision for Xiangyu. A variety of options available. He could just go over here, start an 8-point field in his 8-point city in his own field, but instead he decides that he needs bigger points, goes for the attack of the city, which is not that likely to be completed just yet, just because it's an attack with a Dorito, so he will need 1, 2, 3 tiles at the very least to complete it. But I guess he doesn't want to go for the 11-pointer here, because we're running short on city plus road tiles. We're having only 1 starting tile available. Actually, 0 starting tile available, as 1 was drawn over here. And we don't have any crossroads cities available. But we had daggers, and QAZ would have completed his city for 11 points, of 8 points for the city, and 3 for the field. Instead, he just goes for the 7-pointer, which is fair enough. Bogdan with a horse tile. Looking to try and block the city connection. This has to be incredibly annoying because, in fact, in the entire deck, there's only 1 tile left to complete the connection. This is a measly shielded Dorito like this. QAZ just gets himself city points in Bogdan's field, but the plan, of course, is to then attack Bogdan's field later. A Dorito is drawn, just the wrong kind, and green could go over here and invade the field right now, but this would risk himself a complete block. because with any city tile, Bogdan would be able to block. But wait a second. Maybe we need to do this anyway, and you know why? There's still 2 extenders available, and this would actually open up other opportunities for connecting to the city, because then we can just get an extender and a normal Dorito tile, and we don't even have to wait for the Dorito with the road. And actually, there are not that many blocking tiles available. In fact, the only blocking tile available is the one Dorito with the road. Oh, this is fascinating geometry. Look at this, look at this. So we go over here. Then, if Bogdan draws a tile that blocks the square, most of these tiles, they would in fact block the square, but they would accidentally set up a connection on this side over here. Because the blocking tiles would be 1 remaining road Dorito, 2 remaining extenders, which are not suitable, no vanilla city caps, no splitters, and what else? A couple of cow tiles, but cow tiles also don't work, because if you turn them... Okay, I guess cow tiles do work, because you can turn them like this. But still, it's a great decision here from QAZ, because he gives himself better chances at connecting with back-to-back tiles than just waiting for the one coin flip. Plus, he also gets to invade over here. QAZ now manages to prolong his city. This square is blocked, but now this connection has been set up, and they are, well, multiple tiles that fit there. There's still the last cow, there's still the last regular Dorito, and the last road Dorito. So just like that, he has given himself not 1 but 3 tiles that allow this connection, and this ruin will be already pretty sizable. He's now about to invade this field, although we're kind of running short on invasion tiles. That's a bit tricky. There are no curves remaining, and no monasteries remaining, and no vanilla city caps remaining, and no splitters remaining. So in fact, QAZ needs a regular Dorito to invade over here, and this means that he will need to forego the connection and wait for either the road Dorito or the cow. In any case, Bogdan decided to drop a farmer of his own, to simply re-invade the field, which also makes sense. So probably for us, completing the invasion is not important anymore. We got this meeple occupied, and then we might just set up an invasion elsewhere. Bogdan with an extender tile gets himself extra city points. QAZ with a city cap gets himself a 7-pointer, in all likelihood, which he had just set up. 4 points for the city and 3 points for the field. Only 7 points behind. The road Dorito has been drawn by Bogdan. So this connection is no longer possible. Which also means that red does not even have to spend a tile anymore for trying to reconnect. This is something that he needs to recognize. So if he does draw something like a road tile, he should go over here trying to fully block the square, instead of going over here and connecting 2 0-point farmers. So both sides have fields now. Xiangyu's field is bigger. It has 12 points. Bogdan with an extra monastery and the scoreboard lead. And a city waiting to be finished, although I'm not sure if there are city caps remaining. Maybe actually we've run out of those, or we're close to running out of those. I see that the vertical splitter is the one thing that's remaining. Yeah, no dagger tiles, no starting tiles, no vanilla city caps, no diagonal splitters, no umbrellas. So just 1 tile available for Bogdan to get his 8-pointer on the left. Now, not an easy move for red. Maybe just getting 1 point here is the thing that I see looks easiest. But then at this point in the game, you really gotta stop thinking about points and need to start thinking about winning probabilities. QAZ gets himself a city tile, which means that Bogdan will not be finishing his city. He just simply uses it to score a little bit in his opponent's field. 1 point is better than 0. Bogdan with a cow tile, meaning that there is in fact only 1 invasion tile left, and this is the triangle with a road, which will need to be drawn by the Chinese player before the square gets blocked. Bogdan now needs to recognize that his city on the left cannot be completed, so he can actually just go ahead and add 1 point to it. Exactly what he does. Excellent tile counting. Straight line for QAZ. Cannot really do anything productive with it. Because if we go over here... Wait, we can go here. We can try invading the field. Because you know what? There's still crossroads remaining. And then in that case, if Bogdan gets this thing over here, then we can get a crossroads. So then we will be connecting either here or here. Now, if Bogdan draws a crossroads immediately, then we would be devastated. So imagine this. So we go over here, and if Bogdan draws a crossroads, he uses it to go over here, block the square, and then immediately the field connection is denied. But then, if Bogdan does not draw the crossroads and he draws the Dorito instead, then at the very least, we can use the crossroads to invade the main field and get ourselves 13 points for 1 meeple, 12 for the field, plus 1 extra for this piece of road. Note that no curves or daggers are remaining. The only invasion tile available is, in fact, the crossroads. And the last tile in the deck is an extender, which is inconsequential, but this also means that it's a really good situation for QAZ when it comes to this field invasion, because an extender is a really useless tile and it can only just give Bogdan an extra point for his city, so he can't even use it to block anything. And that's why the invasion is what happens. Bogdan with the extender cannot block. QAZ is guaranteed himself at least something. He gets himself his 13 points. Does not draw the Dorito tile, but it does not even matter because this crossroad is even better. Bogdan with a Dorito tile and not many good moves, the best that he could do is score 4 points for the road. And he will come to this realization soon enough. The only thing that I was not counting during this time was points. So I'm not sure if this invasion into the field was sufficient for green, and Xiangyu spoils it in the chat a little bit, saying congrats, which means that the invasion was not sufficient. So probably he needed both the ruin earlier and then some. So let's see what the point difference is. It should be very close, and at the very least, green played a as precise endgame as it gets. Three points for Bogdan still. So he managed to outrun all the field invasions, and in fact, before the last couple of tiles, there wasn't anything that the Chinese player could have done. Simply just reducing the point difference. Okay, this one was much closer. This one actually was pretty exciting. So you had yourself your risky monasteries, which ended up paying off. Then Bogdan with a monastery of his own. And another monastery at the bottom, which ended up not being completed. Quite a nasty field at the top for 12 points, which ended up being safely shielded from invasions. But ultimately, the situation that swung the game was the situation around these cities over here. It was really either green finishes a road and messes up red's city, or red finishes a city and messes up green's road. There was no way for both of these meeples to survive. So 2-0 is the score. The Romanian does win. Wait. Oh man, did I put the score wrong? Yeah, I put the score wrong. So all this time, and nobody corrected me, all this time I accidentally wrote that QAZ was ahead, which was not the case. Yes, this was the second game, in case you're just joining and the match is over. Or, well, I should have said game over. and also match over. But yes, I guess I can see why Bogdan chose this particular screen name. It suits these type of situations very well. Right, now let's catch up on the chat a little bit, see some interesting suggestions for moves. Oh yeah, that was an interesting situation here. So with this move that Bogdan used to restrict the farm, he actually created more annoyance for this green farmer than I had initially anticipated. Because I was suggesting just simply going over here and trying to, save your monastery and stuff. But this move started restricting this farmer before this square was filled. And at that point in time, this farmer just had one square in it. Then green had a road open for 3 points. And green would normally want to finish that road and give the main field a bit more green squares and so on and get himself a meeple back. But because of this Bogdan's moves earlier, green actually could not do that anymore. Because there were so few curves remaining, if green were to use this here curve to complete this road, then with another curve or a straight line, red could have gone over here, restricted this square, and all but stranded this little farmer for 3 points, because this guy was not yet in the main field. So normally this sort of move, this idea would not work, but in that particular situation, because so many of the curved tiles were drawn early on, so when we have this unusual tile run out, the Romanian player managed to adjust to the unusual run out very quickly. And also credit for Xiangyu as well, who managed to react very quickly. With this move, because he recognized the threat of his farmer being restricted, he actually couldn't finish his road, and instead he used this curve to connect his farmer into what was, according to his design, the main field at the top. But because he was forced to do that, his meeple at the top stayed there for a longer time, which led it to be eventually blocked with these multiple city tiles over here. So what this move did, and this orientation of the road end upwards, it's not only gave Bogdan a meeple back, but because of the threat of the restriction of the field, it forced green to use tiles suboptimally and ultimately end up without a meeple, which, based on how close the score was absolutely the difference in the game. So very interesting how these moves have really, really long-term consequences on the game, and all of that because players were able to recognize how to act given the pool of unseen tiles in this particular game, which was so short on road tiles so early on. That's actually very interesting and instructive also for me. So I will take that note before the Mind Sports Olympiad, and if in one of my games we run out of curves early on, I will make sure to use that fact to abuse my opponent's meeples. Okay, we see some more suggestions in the chat. That's pretty interesting. Hi, self-evident, my commiserations. Although a great endgame effort. Let's see, you're saying that a triangle but not the invasion would be the win. Would it really? Wait, because the invasion of the field was 13 points, right? And then the city would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points. I don't get that because, well, the invasion is 10. Oh, the invasion is 10, right? Because this farmer was already scoring 3. Okay, so the invasion is 10, and the city would be 11. So it's only 1 more point. So it does not appear to be quite a win. But wait a second. But then Bogdan cannot score a 4-point Schroed. He can only score 3 with the crossroads, if he gets the crossroads, right? So Bogdan has 1 less. Green has 1 more. Again, the invasion would be 6, 10, 11. Yeah, so I think still Green comes short with 1 point. Or am I wrong? What did I miscount? Yeah, I guess it's being sorted out in the chat at the moment. It does still appear to be a 1 point difference. Yeah, so some crucial draws happened a bit earlier. Maybe if Green manages to get that invasion tile a bit earlier, then we're maybe talking, because then maybe Green can have both the city invasion and the field invasion. That would be a way to go. But in that case, probably Red does not drop a farmer here and simply use it to score a couple more points. But wait. If both of these features are invaded and a couple of points are not enough, then like Bogdan would be losing by 10, like 7 or something. Yeah. Anyway, towards the end game, probably a very difficult situation. It was just really about that moment over here. Okay, what else are you saying? No. We're getting to the bottom of this. Okay. In the game, again, this farmer is invading the field, unifying 3 against 12, so adding 9 points, plus 1 point for this road, because this road was occupied by Green. So it's absolutely 10 points, the invasion. The invasion of the city, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 11. So it's still a 1 point difference. And Red scores 3 less, because he does not get to start this 4-point road. Now, I don't know. I'm pretty sure this is how it works. And also because this triangle did not have a shield, so the invasion is 11 rather than 12. Anyway, so I'll leave this up to our viewers who are most devoted to explore this endgame further. Just the one thing that's remaining today is talking about the tournament situation. So this was a loss for Self-Evident, which puts them now in 3rd place in this group, I believe tied with Vivian Charlot. But wait, actually, let me just check, because some matches have happened this week, but they have not finished yet. Yeah, so look at how interesting. So actually, Viv, the reigning silver medalist of this event, lost against Ilya Slanimsky and also lost against Bogdan a week earlier. So in fact, both Vivian and Xiangyu are 1 out of 3 when it comes to matches. Ilya has already gone up to 3-0 record, so he's probably guaranteed to qualify. Now Bogdan is looking in good shape because he got 2 out of 3. So he lost to Tito of Chile, but 1 today and 1 against Vivian. And so now he's in 2nd place with 2 out of 3, and the 3rd place is now shared between, well, Vivian and Xiangyu. And so this means that probably whenever these two play together, which is going to be quite the spectacle, this also will be the match for the 3rd place in the group that would enable one of these players to qualify. Because, of course, they could also hope for a particular outcome in another game, but Game Over has played against his 2 most difficult opponents. I mean, he did lose against Tito, but now he needs to play against Lambe and against Isloun. Both are experts, but I would still put Bogdan as a favorite in both of these matches. So I would not expect him to lose both of those. So he'll probably end up with at least 3 out of 5 with a decent tiebreaker, especially after today's 2-0 win. So it will really probably be between Viv and Self-Evident. I believe that match is next week to decide the fate of the 3rd place in this group. Alrighty, so now just plans for the future. No more matches streamed today because I have to play myself, and before that I can't really make it. And even if I could, I probably would want to stay focused for my own match against StatMats today. And then tomorrow, well, in the middle of the night, we have Brian Townsend against Eastung of Hong Kong. I probably won't be able to stay awake for that one. But Friday, European evening, Lord Troop of Argentina against Tarakanov. And this new French player with a bunch of numbers in his screen name. I'm not sure who they are exactly. Maybe this is just a new screen name of a previous unknown player, or maybe somebody in France's Carcassonne scene has managed to just defeat everybody in the national qualifier. They will be playing against Guillermo Neves, the reigning gold medalist of the Mind Sport Olympiad. So those two should be fun, especially this one, and I'm gonna see you then. Before that, make sure to meeple the like button for the algorithm, and in case you're here for the first time, subscribe for more competitive Carcassonne content like this. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.